There's a known cliche in the self-help world that fear is not real. And even though we've heard that, so many of us still feel fear. What would happen if you investigated it? What would happen if you asked it to tell you more? What would happen if you stayed with it and listened to it? You'd start to see that it's not real. If you've ever been in a debate with someone that you know is lying, you know there's a level of depth that they can't get to. Eventually, they realize they're caught and they run. Fear is the exact same thing. The more you investigate it, the more you'll discover it's not true, and you'll realize that you're the truth that's looking at the lie. I want to share with you a moment that happened at our live event last week, Meet the Receiver, where someone asked a question. The closer I get to source, the more I'm scared things will be taken from me. I think the answer that came through can totally help you shift, not only realizing that fear isn't the truth, but start to go deeper with it and investigate it until it's gone. See if this question helps you. Also, if you haven't gotten it yet, our new audio product, Your Soul Is Not for Sale, is out. And it was such a miraculous 3-day event that everyone there said you had to be there, and I want to make it so you can. I made it $20. Get the entire 3-day event for $20. Go to app.kylecease.com/soul. Now enjoy this question from Meet the Receiver.
Okay, this is from Casey. She says, my biggest fear that keeps me stuck in any area of my life is that if I achieve a fully regulated flow state close to God, the full receiving, then some extreme tragedy will strike my life. For example, I will lose someone closest to me. Boom, just like that. It will often bring me to a panic attack, which started when I was 8 years old. My guidance is lost here. The ways this plays out as self-sabotage is intense and alarming.
Okay, so Casey is basically saying that there's a fear that if I merge with Source, that bad things will happen. All negative things, every negative thought, every fear, everything comes from an experience in the past that you haven't alchemized. I want you to take that in. It's not a highest that's saying if you are yourself, a bad thing will happen. It's trauma from an experience, from a moment that had that happen. So one of the things that's trying to happen, Casey, is for you to keep going so it can purge that belief. In other words, that belief is here because you're connecting to the receiving so much that it has to clear the gunk out and go, here's the cobwebs of the old story. Here's the cobwebs of the stuckness. Here's the old story that's stuck. So I want you to take in that every fear you have only comes from you having experienced it or not wanting to be it. All of them. I will go broke. People won't like me. Everything will fall apart. That's because something has happened and you created an identity to never let that happen again. So to go towards your truest self, it goes, this fear is here. And if we really listen to the fear, if I become my truest self, then a bad thing will happen. And we go, okay, well, I won't become my truest self, as if the way to prevent bad things is to be my smallest self. That doesn't make any sense. And one of the reasons we suffer is we believe lies that don't make sense, right? So if we say, when the ego says this can't happen, one of the things I love to do is say to the ego, well, let me ask you this, ego, is your way working? Is being in a small self making things happen? When people, I can't be my truest self, I can't make money. Okay, ego, is being your small self making you money? Because it sounds like you're really struggling, right? So Casey is basically saying, I'm on my way to something and a fear is here. Now, if the fear is heard and listened to and you keep expanding, that fear is coming up because it's being purged on the way. This is what's amazing about the universe is on your way of meeting the receiver, connecting with the receiver and receiving the field, it has to purge what's not true. So the fear comes up and it says, here's the thing, but you have to have the courage to go, that fear isn't the truth. That fear is being observed, right? So it's on the edge and it's being observed and it's not the truth. Right? And it's a weird correlation that's always arbitrary, right? To be my truest self, a bad thing will happen. You can hear that all of our fears are based on our personal experience because it's not that everybody has that exact belief. Every person would believe that if it was the truth. But all of our fears are subject to our own life experience, which means it's not based on truth. It's just unseen past stuff. So the belief is if I move into my truest self, a bad thing will happen because at one point you felt like a true self and a bad thing happened, right? And so what we do is we watch it and we go, I hear you. And it'll probably go like that time when I was 5 and da 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 happened. And you will go, oh, and you'll start to be there and it's finally ready to go because you listened versus catering to it. The ego also has to have the job of doing everything it can to stay alive. And the only weapon it has is fear. Really take that in. The only weapon the ego has is fear. Take that in. The ego has fear that's not based on reality. So the ego's only way to stay alive is throw fear at you to get you to stop doing it. It'll have a fear of missing out, a fear of what could happen, a fear of what they could say, a fear of going broke, right? So when you're moving towards your truest self, the ego has to throw fear, and that's part of the test. Your truest self isn't based on fear. So we go, I hear you. I listen to the fear. You're not based in reality, too. So I now receive the truest self and I allow and receive the purging of the false self, of the fear. I allow the purging of the not me to come to light and me go, that's fine, too. So, Casey, what happens if fear says it and you go, that's a risk I'm willing to take? The fear loses its power. It's like the bad guy in a movie. Like its only power is the control factors in our world. The bad guys in the movie. Everything's only weapon is fear, and fear is not real. Fear is not based on reality, and the only thing that can trigger fear in you is a fear of something you haven't healed before. So the more we receive this, the less we move in fear. The less we move in fear, nothing can control us, right? So the ego is throwing fear out to get you to stop, and fear is never a reason to stop. Love is a reason to keep going. The fear will dissolve in the love. Right. So when it goes, well, if I break up with this person, then I'll be alone or people won't like me. That's not a reason not to. That's just fear making you stay in something that you don't believe in out of fear. And then fear now is what you're run on. Guilt is what you're run on. Don't get hurt. Don't be shamed by other people. Don't be judged by other people is what you're run on. So, Casey, your new life is we hear you fear. Tell me more about it. And then you separate from the fear and you watch it. And the fear goes, it sucks because everything will go bad. Everything, da da da. And you're like, tell me more. I don't want. You'll notice that's what I say with a one-on-one or a hot seat or anyone. Tell me more. Because the fear also can't keep going. Because the more it keeps going, the more you're exploring it. And the more you're exploring it, the more you see it's a lie. So the fear gives you a very vague amount of fear that you don't question and you don't keep going. And this is why anytime someone in truth has a debate with someone who's in a lie, you'll notice the one that's in the lie can't keep going because you'll investigate the lie. You'll go deeper. So they'll pivot, they'll distract, they'll go somewhere else. And the one in truth is like, no, tell me more. Because in truth, I can keep going. You can ask me the ins and outs of every point that I'm making, and I am talking from truth, and the truth can be explored forever. Fear says, that'll happen, and you don't question it. So if the thing says, if this happens, this bad thing will happen, it's throwing fear. You just say, tell me more. Now who are you? Not the one who responds to a mediocre level of vague fear that's not based on reality, but the truth. You are here listening to it. Tell me more. And you'll find there are people that show up in your life and they'll throw something at you, be like, tell me more. And they can't. They'll just be like, screw you and leave. And you're like, okay, I see. My truth is triggering to people. My truth is triggering to people living in lies and they cannot back it with anything. Right. And so as you do this soul work, you connect to your soul and the fear in you dissolves because it's not based on truth. So investigating that thing and going, wait, this must just be a stored memory that I've never listened to, right? It's not based on anything. Now you're free, right? And the more you go, okay, bring it on, fear. I'm fine with that. I'm willing to risk it. And the fear's like, no, you don't understand. It's got to use past and future. It'll be like this. It's all vague. You go, tell me more. How would that even happen? Why would that be? It's also, by the way, thinking from a lower density than where you're heading. In other words, it'll also anticipate when you get here, life will be like here. And you don't understand. You got to think in a higher dimension. When you get here, this will be gone, right? So it's up to you to go, I'm up for that. And the biggest thing I say when fear shows up on my way to the truth is that's fine. Remember the thing I said was what the most freeing thing. Merge me with my soul no matter what the cost. If the cost is it all falls apart, that's fine too, right? Bring it on. It's still worth it. Like, let's think about this. I'd love to merge with God, but bad things will happen. Okay, you're still merged with God. Is that not even worth it? like, like some people don't like you, things fall apart, you go broke, but you're merged with God. I'll take the trade. You get what I'm saying? You're merged with God. So you're going to see reality through God. I see. So Casey says, it's like I'll lose my children. So that's here to show you, right? You're tethered to that fear, which, by the way, a great way to help prevent yourself from a fear of losing your children is to become the truest self. In other words, the ego tries to run things, and the ego also unconsciously sabotages what it's trying to protect. So if the ego goes, I'm scared this will happen, it's stuck in a prison, so it has to free itself by actually manifesting more of what it's worried about. I don't know if that made sense, but if the ego's scared someone will abandon you, then you're going to do everything you can to actually make them abandon you so you can be free of this fear, right? If you're so scared to be broke, then finally, when you get a certain amount of debt, you can finally let go of your fear because you've experienced it. So the ego loves to actually, isn't that weird, manifest what it's worried about, because then it can be free because it doesn't have to worry about it anymore. So the more we allow and say really hard things like, it's okay if everything falls apart. It's okay. And the hardest thing probably to say was, it'd be okay if I lost my kids. You are not creating a space where you lose your kids. You are creating a space where you're handing it to God versus making your 7-year-old child or 5-year-old child from trauma run the show. When you hand it to God, things get really good. You're saying, God, you take care of it. You who made the trees, you whatever. This isn't denialism. This isn't don't put a seatbelt on them. This is you create a surrender that stops the suffering that says my separate self is responsible for all of my fears. No, that's why they keep happening. The people who are scared to go broke are often broke. The people who are scared of the world falling apart see through the lens of that fear and see a world falling apart. So Casey, we celebrate that that fear is right on the edge of being gone. It's just trauma that hasn't been alchemized, and today's the day. So we still say, I receive God, I receive flow state. I think merging with source is even higher than flow state, by the way. Flow state, you're doing your thing, I'm flowing. But imagine if I was just addicted to flowing and thought of myself as just the speaker and needed to keep flowing versus be oneness and bring my life into the stage versus being the flow state and bringing that into my life, right? We're instead just saying, right, we are right here, and we are the flow state that exists within the receiving of the space. Does that help? The fear on the way is a preview of what's being purged if you keep going, right? Awesome. Awesome. I mean, imagine the alternative. If you find God and you find your true self, this bad thing could happen. Okay, I'll recoil and get addicted again and just be stuck in a small self that runs the show by myself and have no God. Right? And then I won't lose my kids while I'm insanely chaotic, stuck, addicted, broke, right? We're going to the higher self, right? So much better.